The first sound is never the alarm. It's the sigh. A deep, weary exhale that comes from somewhere in the dark. A full 3 seconds before the Arctic Monkeys guitar riff starts blaring from the phone on the nightstand. It's 6:32 a.m. on a Tuesday, March 11th, 2025, in a one-bedroom apartment in San Jose, 10 minutes from the Apple Park Visitor Center. The blue light from the screen cuts through the dark, illuminating floating dust motes and the silhouette of a half-empty can of Guava La Croix on the floor. A hand, belonging to a woman named Maya, 31, a product manager at a Series B startup, slaps the snooze button with practiced muscle memory. The room goes black and silent again for 9 minutes. This is the ritual. This is the trap. When the guitar screams again at 6:41, she finally grabs the phone. Her thumbprint unlocks it, and she's immediately, violently, somewhere else. Not in her bed, in her body, in her new day. She's in a storm of other people's demands. Her eyes, still crusty with sleep, squint at the notifications. 3 new Slacks from her founder, Mark. Time-stamped 1:17 a.m. Subject: Quick thoughts on the Q2 roadmap? A calendar alert for a 9 a.m. cross-functional that she is utterly unprepared for. A text from her mom with 3 smiling emojis that somehow fills her with guilt. And a headline from her news app: Another AI tool just made your job obsolete. Her heart isn't pounding from caffeine yet. It's pounding from dread. This is the raw, unedited reality for millions of us. The before picture. And we live here. Maya swings her legs out from under the Brooklinen duvet, the one she bought after seeing an ad promising hotel-quality sleep. Her feet hit the cool, slightly sticky hardwood floor. She doesn't know what the stickiness is from. She should clean. She makes a mental note to buy Swiffer pads. That note joins a swirling mental vortex that already contains learn about vector databases, call dermatologist, plan cousin's birthday gift, and figure out why the fridge is making that noise. She stumbles to the kitchen, her phone now a permanent extension of her hand. The apartment smells faintly of last night's microwavable pad thai and plug-in eucalyptus air freshener, a losing battle. She opens the fridge. The light is too bright. She stares at the yogurt, the wilted kale, the sriracha bottle, seeing none of it. She's scrolling through her work email with her other thumb. This is the specific daily frustration. It's not one big problem. It's 1,000 tiny cuts before 7 a.m. It's the feeling that your brain is a browser with 107 tabs open, and 5 of them are playing audio, and you can't find the one with your actual soul on it. It's performing this morning dance of exhaustion and anxiety, while carrying the heavy, secret belief that you should be doing more, that you should be remarkable. Maya makes it to her workspace. A small IKEA desk shoved in the corner of the living room, backlit by a pricey LED ring light she uses for Zoom calls. She sits down, the familiar creak of the chair, a sound of resignation. She opens her laptop. It's time for what she calls the morning conference. But she's not talking to anyone. She's opening her Notion page. The page is a digital masterpiece, a cathedral of good intentions. It's titled Maya 2.0 2025 System. It has databases, linked views, toggle lists. There is a section labeled Skills to Acquire with sub-items. Achieve conversational Spanish, Duolingo streak. Get AWS certified. Learn Swift prototyping. Below that, health optimization. Train for SF half marathon. Meal prep with Healy AI. 8 hours sleep. Track with Oura. And the grand one, side hustle, eco-friendly pet product line. There are beautiful color-coded Gantt charts projecting progress out to December. She spent a full Sunday in February building this. She posted a screenshot of a small part of it on LinkedIn with the caption, "Building in public." She got 47 likes. The brutal, painful truth? None of it is real. The Duolingo streak died on day 3. The marathon training consists of one painful 2-mile run 3 weeks ago. The side hustle tab contains exactly one note. Maybe collapsible bowls? This is the performative planning trap. We build these beautiful, complex maps of a future self. A smarter, fitter, richer, more impressive version of us. We get a hit of dopamine just from planning. The achievement. It feels like progress. It's not. It's a lie. And the gap between that beautiful digital map and the cold, stale reality of this Tuesday morning is where the shame grows. It's a quiet voice that whispers, "You're a fraud." Let me ask you a question, a really uncomfortable one. What if your desire to be remarkable is the very thing making you average? Think about it. Maya isn't failing because she's lazy. Look at her. She's checking Slack at 6:45 a.m. She's exhausted. She's pouring all her energy into managing the idea of her potential instead of taking one concrete step into it. The planning has become the substitute for the doing. It's a brilliant, self-protecting trick our brains play. As long as the plan is perfect and future-oriented, we never have to face the messy, difficult, boring reality of starting right now, with what we have, where we are. The visual here isn't dramatic. It's just Maya's face, lit by the glow of her Notion page and her iPhone screen. Her eyes are tired. They flick back and forth between the gorgeous plan and her chaotic email inbox. You can see the hope drain out of her, replaced by a familiar numb overwhelm. The sound isn't a crashing wave. It's the frantic, muted tap-tap-tap of her keyboard as she frantically replies to Mark's 1:17 a.m. message with, "Circling back on this shortly." A phrase that means absolutely nothing. And here's a fact that stings. According to the 2025 Deloitte Digital Well-Being Report, 72% of professionals under 40 have over 5 self-improvement or productivity apps on their phone that they haven't opened in the last 30 days. We are collectors of potential, curators of a future that never arrives. Maya finally pushes back from her desk around 10 a.m., her first real break. She's been in 3 Zoom calls already. She feels busy, but if someone asked her what she actually accomplished, she'd draw a blank. She grabs her phone and mindlessly opens Instagram. She scrolls past a reel of a 25-year-old founder on a beach, talking about crushing your day. She scrolls past an ad for a new neurostimulation headband that promises perfect focus. Her thumb keeps moving, a nervous habit. She's looking for something, anything to make this feeling go away. A new hack, a new secret, a new plan that will finally work. This is the cliffhanger of our modern lives. We are smarter, more connected, and have more tools than any generation in history. And yet, that quiet sense of being adrift, of running on a treadmill of our own making, is almost universal. We've been sold a lie. A beautiful, compelling, Silicon Valley-approved lie. That discipline, that success, is about optimization, about getting more done, squeezing more out of every minute, hacking our biology. But what if we have it completely backwards? What if true discipline isn't about getting more? What if it's really about protecting something? What if the first, most radical step isn't forward, but a simple, almost stupid step toward your own front door? That thought might feel strange. It might feel too simple, but stick with me for a moment, because in that simplicity, in that one quiet action, lies the first crack in the entire trap. The story doesn't end with overwhelm. It starts with a single, deliberate step. and I promise you that step is closer than you think. Let's rewind the tape a little. Back to Maya, later that same Tuesday. It's 8:37 p.m. Her laptop is finally closed. The apartment is quiet, save for the hum of that questionable fridge. She's sitting on her couch, physically still, but mentally she's in a full sprint. She's not thinking about work now. She's thinking about the solution, the next system. See, after the numbness of the morning wore off, a new feeling took its place. A restless, itchy energy. The feeling that if she could just find the right tool, everything would click. So for the last hour, she's been down a rabbit hole. She's watched 3 YouTube videos comparing second brain apps. She's read a sprawling Twitter thread about a guy who uses a modified Zettelkasten method in Obsidian to write his novel. Her notes app is open, and she's sketching a new, even more beautiful, even more complex plan. This is the moment we need to understand. This is where the real villain lives. It's not laziness. Look at her. She's working hard, thinking hard. The villain is something much sneakier, and it wears a disguise of ambition. We have to give this villain a name. Let's call it the innovator's curse. Here's what it sounds like in your head. If the solution isn't novel, scalable, efficient, and kind of brilliant, it's not worth doing. We've been marinating in Silicon Valley logic for so long, it's seeped into our souls. We don't just want to solve a problem. We want to architect a revolutionary framework. We want to build a scalable system. We want a game-changing life hack. The simple, boring, proven answer feels insulting to our intelligence. It feels beneath us. For Maya, the problem is a foggy brain and a lack of direction. The simple, boring answer might be, write 3 things you want to accomplish tomorrow on a sticky note before bed. But her brain, cursed with the need to innovate, rejects that. It's too plain. It's not leverageable. It doesn't have a cool acronym. So instead, she's designing a digital dashboard in Notion that pulls in her calendar, her health data, her project milestones, and uses AI to predict her weekly focus zones. She'll spend weeks building it. She'll use it for 3 days, then she'll hear about a better one. But the innovator's curse has a deeper, more painful root. It's tied to a false belief we rarely say out loud. It's the belief that I am my ideas, our identity, our sense of worth, gets tangled up in our potential, in the grandeur of our plans. We fall in love with the vision of ourselves as a fluent Spanish speaker, a certified expert, a successful entrepreneur. To actually start, to take a small, clumsy, real action, is terrifying. Because what if we're bad at it? What if it's hard? What if the real-world result doesn't match the beautiful idea in our head? That failure wouldn't just be a failed action. It would feel like a failure of ourself. So it's safer to stay in the realm of perfect plans, to be the person with the brilliant system, rather than the person doing the boring work. Let me tell you about Alex. Alex isn't Maya, but he could be her cousin in Austin. He's 34, a senior UX designer. His struggle was creative block. He knew in his bones that a simple daily journaling habit would help clear the pipes. Just 3 sentences about what he'd worked on that day. But could he just open a notebook? No. That was too simple for a designer of his caliber. So he spent 3 months, from January to April of 2024, in what he called the research phase. He analyzed every journaling app. Day 1, Diarium, Journey. He decided they were all too limiting. He needed a custom solution. He taught himself the basics of Obsidian, a super powerful, endlessly customizable note-taking tool. He spent weekends watching tutorials on linking notes, creating data views, installing plugins. He built a breathtaking, complex dashboard. He had a Canvas database for random ideas, a daily note template with automated prompts, a graph view that showed connections between his thoughts. It was a work of digital art, a masterpiece of potential. He showed it to his friend on a Zoom call, moving the camera over his screen. "Look at this," he said, pride in his voice. "This is my new thinking environment." His friend asked, "That's amazing, man. So what have you written in it?" The screen went silent. Alex minimized the window. The truth was, the only note in the entire magnificent system was titled, "Welcome to Obsidian," the default file that comes with the app. He had built an ornate, towering scaffold around an empty picture frame. He never put a photo in it. The scaffold was the point. It protected him from the vulnerability of actually creating something that could be judged. Can you feel that? The warm, deceptive comfort of that scaffolding. We all have a version of it. It's the elaborate workout plan you make on January 1st, instead of just putting on your shoes and walking around the block. It's the 5 different budgeting apps you download, instead of just looking at last month's bank statement. It's the 4-hour deep dive into the best course on copywriting, instead of writing one single email for your business. The visual here isn't failure. It's avoidance disguised as preparation. It's the frantic energy of building the perfect launch pad while secretly hoping the rocket never has to lift off, because liftoff is scary and messy and you might crash. Let's make it sensory. Close your eyes for a second. What does the innovator's curse feel like? You seen the split screen. On the left, a breathtaking, colorful Figma mock-up of your ultimate productivity dashboard. On the right, a blank white Google Doc with a cursor blinking mockingly next to the title, Q3 Goals. The left side is vibrant, complex, full of possibility. The right side is empty, waiting, demanding something real. You. Here, the rapid, excited clicking of a mouse, adding another plugin, changing another theme, organizing another folder. It's the sound of progress. Then, when the setup is finally perfect, the sound stops. There's just the quiet hum of the computer, and the silence is deafening because now it's time to actually use the tool, and you don't know what to say. You have feel of the warm, almost smug satisfaction of adding a highly recommended book to your Amazon cart or your to-read list on Goodreads. You feel smarter already. You've captured the idea. You've affiliated yourself with the knowledge, the act of acquiring. The potential feels like the accomplishment. The actual reading, that's a future problem. This cycle has a cost, a real, measurable one. Researchers at the Stanford Attention Lab tracked this in 2024. They found that the average knowledge worker, constantly searching for a better system, switches between major productivity methods or apps 4.2 times per year. And each switch, it costs them not just the time to learn the new thing, but the lost momentum. All those half-finished tasks in the old system get abandoned. They calculated that this chasing costs us roughly 3 weeks of cumulative, focused momentum every single year. 3 weeks. That's a vacation. That's a side project. That's time with your family. Gone. Poof. Lost in the space between systems. So here we are, with Maya on her couch, Alex in Austin, and maybe you, wherever you are, feeling that familiar tug toward a new, better plan. The turning point starts with a single, quiet question. What if the most radical, rebellious, game-changing act in 2025 is to embrace the boring, not to dumb yourself down, not to give up on big dreams, but to finally see the elaborate planning and the constant searching for the next big thing for what it often is, a beautifully decorated trap. A trap that keeps you safely in the land of could be and protects you from the rough-and-tumble, rewarding real world of what is. What if the way out isn't a more complex lock, but a simple, almost stupid decision to walk through an open door? Maya feels a pang of this as she looks at the time on her phone. 9:12 p.m. She's been working on her system for over an hour and a half, and she's more tired, more anxious, and no closer to anything real. The cleverness of her new plan suddenly feels hollow. A whisper cuts through the noise of her own thoughts. What if you just did one thing, one tiny, easy, non-innovative thing? It feels scary. It feels too small. It feels like it wouldn't count. But that whisper is the first glimpse of daylight under the door of the trap. That's the what if that changes everything. The recognition that maybe, just maybe, the secret has been hiding in plain sight all along, dressed in ordinary clothes, waiting for you to stop looking for the superhero costume. The cliffhanger isn't about finding a new source of energy. It's about a quiet surrender, a letting go of the need to be clever. So the question now is simple. You see the trap. You feel the weight of all those unfinished, perfect plans. The urge to find a new, better, shinier system is probably itching at you right now. But what if you didn't scratch it? What if, instead of building another scaffold, you took one small, plain brick and just laid it on the ground? Where would you even start? The whisper won. It was that quiet, simple thought that cut through the noise on Tuesday night. What if you just did one thing? Maya sat on her couch, surrounded by the ghost of her abandoned plans, and she made a decision. Not a grand, life-changing declaration, just a tiny, stupid-sounding pact with herself. Tomorrow, she said out loud to the empty apartment. When I wake up, before I do anything else, I'm going to walk to the front door and touch the handle. That was it. No app, no schedule, no system, just a door handle. When her alarm screamed at 6:32 a.m. on Wednesday, March 12th, something was different. The sigh was still there. The heaviness was still there. But underneath it was a tiny, stubborn thread of curiosity. Okay, her brain mumbled, thick with sleep. The door thing. She swung her feet out. The floor was still cool and slightly sticky. Her phone, charging on the nightstand, glowed with its usual siren call of notifications. Her entire body, trained by years of habit, tensed to reach for it. It was a physical pull, like a magnet. Her hand actually twitched in its direction. This is the resistance. This is the internal battle. It's not dramatic. It's a quiet, insistent argument in the fog of morning. Just check the weather first. You need to know what to wear. What if there's an urgent message from Mark? This is so stupid. What is a door handle going to solve? This is a waste of time. The arguments felt logical, sensible. The old pattern, the autopilot sequence of phone, email, overwhelm was a deep rut in her brain's pathway. Stepping out of that rut required a conscious, almost awkward effort. It felt wrong. It felt silly. But she had made the pact. So with a force of will that felt both enormous and ridiculous, she turned her body away from the nightstand. She took one step, then another. Her fuzzy socks shuffled on the hardwood. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the fridge. She passed the dark screen of her laptop on the desk. She passed the kitchen, where the yogurt waited in the fridge. She walked the 12 feet from her bedroom to the front door of her San Jose apartment. Her hand reached out in the dim morning light, filtering through the blinds. Her fingers wrapped around the cold, brushed nickel lever of the door handle. Click. She didn't turn it. She just held on. The metal was shockingly cold, a real sharp physical sensation in a world that usually started with soft, glowing screens. She stood there for 3 full seconds. She felt the solidity of the lever. She saw the tiny scratches on it from her keys. She noticed the dust on the little shelf by the door. In that moment, a crack appeared, the smallest possible fissure in the wall of her routine. Nothing magical happened. The sky didn't open up. She didn't have a brilliant idea, but something shifted. For the first time in maybe years, her first conscious action of the day was not a reaction. It wasn't her responding to someone else's Slack or email or notification. It was an action she chose. It was a command, not a compliance. She let go of the handle. She turned around. The apartment looked the same, but she felt different, lighter by an ounce. She had proven, in a tiny, concrete way, that she could tell her brain what to do, even if it was something completely pointless. She went about her morning. She made coffee. She checked her phone. The messages were not urgent. She got ready for work. The whole day wasn't transformed. She still had the stressful cross-functional meeting at 9 a.m. She still felt behind on her project. But there was a new flavor in the background, a faint taste of agency. She kept thinking about the cold metal in her hand. The next day, Thursday, she did it again. This time, the argument in her head was a little weaker. It mumbled, but it didn't scream. Her feet hit the floor, and she walked straight to the door. Click. Cold metal. 3 seconds. Done. On Friday, she added one thing. After the door handle, she thought, "What's one thing I'm avoiding?" The answer came immediately. The messy spreadsheet for the quarterly report. It filled her with dread. The old pattern would be to open her email first, get distracted, and push the spreadsheet to later. Instead, she took her phone and physically walked it to the kitchen counter. She left it there. She went back to her desk, opened her laptop, opened the terrifying spreadsheet, and set a timer on her laptop for 12 minutes. Why 12? She didn't know. It felt like a manageable, non-threatening number, not a whole hour of power, just 12 minutes. The resistance came back, fierce and loud. Her brain was a trapped animal. Check your phone. What if you miss something? You can't just ignore the world for 12 minutes. This is irresponsible. She felt a literal itch in her palm to go get her phone. She fidgeted in her chair. She stared at the complicated columns of numbers, and her mind went blank with panic. But the timer was ticking, so she took a breath. She clicked on the first cell. She typed one heading, Q1 Summary. That was all. Then she wrote one sentence describing the first project. The words were clumsy. It didn't flow. It was awful. She deleted it. She wrote a different sentence. It was still bad. The timer beeped. She stopped immediately. She leaned back. She hadn't finished the report. She hadn't even come close. But she had started it. She had faced the monster for 12 minutes and survived. The spreadsheet was still scary, but it was no longer a mythical beast. It was just a file, and she had typed in it. That was the microscopic victory. It wasn't completing something. It was beginning something. It was proving to herself that she could tolerate the discomfort of starting. The win was so small, so seemingly insignificant, that most people would dismiss it. They'd say, "Big deal, you typed for 12 minutes." But for Maya, it was a seismic shift. It was the first time she had chosen the important thing over the urgent, buzzing thing in weeks. Let's get really sensory here. Let's feel what this first break actually looks like, sounds like, feels like. You see the close-up, not of a smiling face, but of the struggle, the fingers drumming on the desk, the way the cursor blinks on a blank document, mocking you, the slow, hesitant pecking of the keyboard as you force out the first bad sentence. You see the deliberate turn of the body away from the glowing phone. You hear the stark silence of a room without a podcast, without music, without any input at all. Just the quiet tap of a single key, the hum of the computer fan, the distant sound of a car passing outside, then the piercing, simple beep of the timer, a sound of liberation. You feel the cold shock of the door handle, a real temperature in a world of digital fog. You feel the physical weight of leaving your phone in another room, like you've taken off a heavy backpack. You feel the weird empty ache in your chest when you're sitting with a hard task, and your brain is screaming for distraction. That ache is the feeling of growth. It's the muscle tearing before it gets stronger. This is the moment, right here, the moment where the chain of the old pattern has its first real break. And I need you to hear this because it's the most important thing I'll say. This is where 95% of people quit. They touch the door handle for 2 days. They try a 12-minute session. It feels awkward. It feels stupid. It feels too small. They don't see instant, dramatic results. Their brain says, "See, this dumb method doesn't work. I need something more advanced, more innovative." And they go back to searching for the perfect plan. They abandon the simple, boring action in favor of the sexy, complicated system. They quit right on the brink of the crack becoming a doorway. If you are here, if you've felt that resistance and done the small, stupid thing anyway, you are now in the 5%. Let's be honest, you are not in the 5% because you're a genius, or because you have superhuman willpower. You are in the 5% because you understood a secret. Transformation does not start with a bang. It starts with a whisper. It starts with a commitment so small that it almost doesn't count, except that it counts for everything. Remember that feeling of the cold metal. Hold on to the memory of surviving the 12-minute prison. That is your foundation. That tiny piece of proof that you can command your own attention is more valuable than any productivity app you will ever download. The cliffhanger is no longer about whether you can start. You've started. The crack is there. Light is getting in. The question now is, what do you do with the next 12 minutes? And the next? How do you build a daily life around this tiny, powerful truth you've just discovered? The door is open. The handle is cold. Your phone is buzzing, forgotten, in the other room. What happens next is the structure, and it's simpler and more profound than you can imagine. The first win feels like a miracle. That first morning you touch the door handle. You feel like you've unlocked a secret level of reality. The sky looks bluer. Your coffee tastes better. You think, I've cracked the code. And then, day 2 arrives. This is where the real work begins. This is where the banned method stops being a neat idea and starts being a daily war. A quiet, persistent, incredibly rewarding war fought in the trenches of your own living room, your own mind, your own schedule. The hero isn't the person who has one great day. The hero is the person who shows up on the boring Tuesday after a bad night's sleep when nothing seems to be working and touches the damn door handle anyway. So let's walk through the full 5-step method, not as a theory, but as a lived experience. This is the Silicon Valley proof part, because it's the opposite of a sleek app. It's almost primitive in its simplicity, and that's why it works. Step 1 is still the door handle protocol. Every single morning, your feet hit the floor, and you have one mission. Walk to your front door and touch the handle within 60 seconds. No detour to the bathroom. No, let me just check the weather. The physical world comes first. Your hand on that cool metal or smooth wood is your anchor. It says, "My body is here. I am in charge of this moment." For Maya, in her San Jose apartment, the handle is a brushed nickel lever. It's always colder than she expects. That shock of cold is her daily wake-up call, more effective than any alarm. Step 2 is the 12-minute prison. This is the core. After the door handle, you take your phone and you physically walk it to another room. You leave it there. Then you set a timer for 12 minutes. Not 10, not 15, 12. It's a neurologically awkward number. It's not a neat round block of time your brain can easily dismiss. You sit down with one, and only one, hard task. The one thing you've been avoiding. For Maya, on a Thursday in mid-April, that task is opening the intimidating spreadsheet for her quarterly project report. She doesn't have to finish it. Her only job is to be in prison with it for 12 minutes. The resistance is a physical thing. It feels like a weight on her chest, an urge to get up, to get water, to just quickly check something. She breathes. She watches the timer count down. She types one sentence, then another. The win isn't finishing the report. The win is serving the 12-minute sentence. When the timer beeps, she is free. She has moved the boulder just an inch, and an inch is enough. Step 3 is the 5:31 p.m. sanctuary. Work has an end, a hard, non-negotiable end. At 5:31 p.m., again, not 5:30, the awkward number makes you pay attention. You perform a shutdown ritual. You don't just intend to stop. You perform it. For Maya, it goes like this. She closes her laptop. She opens her physical notebook, a simple, cheap composition book. She writes tomorrow's date, and beneath it, she writes the single task for her next 12-minute prison. Just one. Draft slides for project update. That's it. Then she closes the notebook. That's the ceremony. The final act is the sound her laptop makes when she shuts it. A soft, definitive click. That sound is a boundary. On one side is work. On the other side is her life. A 2025 MIT Future of Work study found that people who implement a hard stop like this report a 68% lower likelihood of rage applying to other jobs. They don't feel as burned out because the fire is officially put out at 5:31. Step 4 is the Saturday singularity. This is for the life admin that used to haunt her all week. From 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. every Saturday, Maya enters a different kind of prison. This is for the 3 hours of concentrated adulting, grocery shopping online, scheduling the car maintenance, folding the laundry that's been in the basket for 3 days, paying bills. She protects this block like it's a meeting with the CEO, because it is the CEO of her life. Getting it all done in one focused burst means it doesn't leak into her evenings, poisoning her relaxation with guilty whispers of, "You should be doing the dishes." Step 5 is the Sunday sunset review. At around 7 p.m., as the sun starts to dip behind the Santa Cruz Mountains, Maya takes out her phone. But she doesn't open Notes or Notion. She opens her voice memo app. She hits record, and for 20 minutes, she just talks to herself. This week, the 12-minute prison worked really well on Tuesday and Thursday. On Wednesday, I skipped it and felt scattered. Why? I was anxious about the dentist. Maybe next time I can do it after the appointment to refocus. She doesn't write it down. She just talks. The act of speaking it out loud processes the week in a way typing never could. It's gentle. It's reflective. It's a conversation with a friend. Her future self. Now let's be brutally real. You will fail. Maya missed a day. It was a Friday. She had a stressful all-hands meeting, came home exhausted, ordered greasy takeout, and binged a whole season of a show. She woke up Saturday morning with a foggy head and a stomach ache. The old voice was loud. "See? You blew it. The system is broken. You're back to square one." But the method had already rewired something. A new, quieter voice spoke up. It said, "The method isn't broken. A missed day is just data, not failure. The door handle will be there tomorrow." So on Saturday, she didn't try to make up for it. She just did her Saturday singularity block. She touched the door handle on Sunday morning. She got back in the prison for 12 minutes on Sunday evening. She didn't break the chain. She just repaired a single link. This is the visual proof, the kind that keeps you going. Maya started a simple tracker on the back of her closet door, just a calendar she printed out. Every day she completed her morning protocol and her 12-minute prison, she put a green X on the date. At first, the X's were sporadic. A green Tuesday, a blank Wednesday, a green Thursday. But after a few weeks, a pattern emerged. The green X's started to form clusters, then lines. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress you could see. It looked like a slowly growing garden, not a shattered window. And here's a crucial, often missed piece. Doing this alone versus doing it with others. This isn't about a loud, cheering accountability group. That can feel like more pressure. For Maya, it looked like this. She texted 2 trusted friends, David in Chicago and Lena in Portland. She said, "I'm trying this weird thing. No details needed. If you want in, just text the word handle when you do your morning step. No other chat, just that." The next morning, at 6:05 a.m., her phone buzzed. A text from David. It just said, "Handle." 10 minutes later from Lena, "Handle, that's all." No conversation, no "you can do it." Just a simple, powerful signal in the dark. You are not alone in the trench. The solidarity was in the silence, in the shared, private commitment. It made the whole thing feel less like a self-help project and more like a quiet pact. Let's soak in the sensory details of this new daily war. It doesn't look like a superhero montage. It looks like real life, just slightly more intentional. You see the growing collection of sticky notes on the side of Maya's fridge. Each one has a single, completed 12-minute task scrawled on it in slightly smudged pen. Outlined blog post. Called Mom. Researched LLC filing. It's a museum of tiny victories. You hear the profound silence of a Sunday evening with no Sunday scaries, no frantic catching up, just the gentle hum of the dishwasher and the turning of a physical page in the novel she's finally reading. You feel the texture of that paper, the weight of the closed laptop, the specific ache in your shoulders after a 12-minute prison of deep focus. A good ache, an earned ache. This is the daily war. It's not flashy, but it's real. You are winning not by conquering a continent in a day, but by faithfully tending to your own small plot of land every single day. You're clearing the weeds, planting the seeds, watering them in 12-minute increments. The cliffhanger now isn't about whether you can do it. You know you can. You've proven it to yourself. One green X at a time. The real question, the new challenge, is more subtle. You are winning back your focus. You are protecting your time. Your mind is getting quieter. The storm of tabs is starting to close.